The Washington Post is at it again, where they demand that Democrats and Republicans are treated equally. They're both citing an issue that is just blatantly stupid. This is how they start off their article. The idea behind democracy is, in part, that differences get resolved through consensus. That instead of brawling over resources, we have a process for allocating power and assets that depends solely on the public will. This, however, completely ignores everything that is currently happening. When Republicans get power, they take away the voting rights of everyone else. Because the fact is, the American people don't want what Republicans are offering. And the Washington Post is starting this off as, well, we have a process here in America that's fair, even though the Republicans have an unbiased advantage written into the Constitution in the first place, and then they go above and beyond, stripping away voting rights of anyone that might not support them, making it harder to vote. The reason why Texas isn't a blue state is very specifically Texas is a non-voting state because Republicans in the state have taken away your constitutional rights. But the Washington Post will ignore that to get their way. Republicans win when people don't vote. That's it. They go on. Democracy isn't simply voting once and being done. It is a constant allocation of power based on measuring the views of the public. That by itself reinforces the utility of the process. If you don't win today, you might win tomorrow. Again, completely ignoring the fact that Republicans are stripping away the right to vote. They ignore the crimes of Republicans and them rigging the game. Democratic views now on Republicans have shifted. When we see Republicans' calls to murder Democrats, videos where they go, how much longer are we going to allow Democrats to steal elections before we murder these people? That's why Democrats view Republican as a threat to our way of life. There is a significant difference for Republicans calling Democrats enemies of the United States for decades, whereas Democrats now see Republicans taking up arms and trying to overthrow the United States, Republicans stripping away even more voting rights, electing election deniers, people that were actually involved in the attempted overthrow of the United States. This is who Republicans are putting into office. And Democrats now view Republicans as a threat to the way of life? No. I mean, seriously now. The Washington Post is both sides this issue. If Republicans were straight up Nazis, marching in the streets with Nazi flags, which they are, Democrats call them Nazis, well, Republicans and Democrats both are calling each other Nazis, so what are we going to believe? Now, Democrats' view of Republicans as a threat to democracy and our way of life is up 17 points. Republicans basically stable, down a little bit. Now, those that are older view Republicans as much more of a threat than those that are younger, which can be equated onto those that have more time to actually pay attention to what's going on. Liberals view Republicans more as a threat. That makes sense because, Republicans are trying to strip away the rights that we have fought for the last 50 years. And it's pretty equal for those that with or without a college degree. Now, Republicans, on the other hand, this is a little strange, where those that are older, their views of Democrats as the enemy is up a little bit, whereas those that are younger, it has decreased. Now, there is much that needs to be done on this. The poll is nowhere near as in-depth as it needs to be to give us an accurate reading. The reason why people younger might view Democrats as less of a threat could easily be that Democrats might not be as bad because they don't fear socialism as the fully indoctrinated elders do. They also might not fear gays as much. So, yes, it might be a reason why the older still view Democrats as more threat. It's straight up across the board for conservatives, because that's all that there is in the party. However, those with a college degree see Democrats as much less of a threat than those that are uneducated. So Republicans have indoctrinated their people for decades, scaring them about how Democrats are going to come and get their guns in this next election for the last 50 years. So we need a much better poll to tease out why Republicans that are younger no longer are seeing Democrats as such a threat to America. There are a multitude of reasons why it could be. So let's read his conclusion. The trend towards demonizing the other party is long-standing. The era in which there was a cordial jockeying for power among Americans who have a general shared sense of patriotism and national direction has eroded, if not vanished. Now we are forced to consider these polls results in the grimmest context. When you view opponents as enemies instead of simply competitors, when you view electoral losses as more dire than temporary setbacks, the range of responses to actions you disagree with expands. Now, boy Hardy, is he going without any rationality of the difference between Democrats and Republicans? They're both sides because they view each other as enemies. The Republican Party is the enemy. Let's ignore that Republicans have tried to overthrow the United States and the threats of murders. How about just the terrorism? Now, a 2017 Countering Violent Extremism report from the United States Government Accountability Office finds since September 12, 2001, far-right violent extremist groups were responsible for 62% of the attacks, 73%. Republicans are responsible for most of the terrorist attacks. Now, one would expect that this is a blatant partisan Republican, but it's not. His other articles show that all he is a reporter. He is a normal reporter, and that is the problem. The media has been bending over so far for the Republicans to avoid being told that they're being under attack, that even the moderate, mainstream, and liberal reporters bend over backwards for this. The attack on the Democratic Party isn't just from the hacks. The media has been pushed and distorted for generations. When the media pretends Democrats are losing elections, is because America doesn't want them? How are low information voters going to see that and make rational decisions of who to vote for? When the media puts forward things like this from non-hacks, which that's what the main reporters are, the media is bending the American population to serve Republicans, even if they don't realize it, by putting forward blatantly biased reporting.